The Last Laugh. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Earth's orbital defense station, her weathered face reflected in the reinforced glass as she watched another Drachnid delegation depart. Their crystalline ship glinted mockingly in the sunlight, a reminder of how far ahead their technology was, or so they thought. Behind her, the holographic replay of their latest diplomatic meeting still flickered in the air. Primitive fusion drives. The Drachnid ambassador's translated voice dripped with barely concealed contempt. How quaint. Perhaps in another millennium, you'll discover proper fold space technology. Until then, we suggest you remain in your local neighborhood. Sarah's fingers tightened around the data crystal in her pocket, the one containing humanity's greatest secret. For 30 years, they'd endured the patronizing attitudes of the galactic community. For 30 years, they'd smiled and nodded as species after species dismissed them as cosmic backwater dwellers. For 30 years, they'd worked in secret, deep beneath the surface of Mars, on Project Ascendant. Admiral, her neural implant chimed. Dr. Patil is requesting your immediate presence at Olympus Base. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Tell him I'm on my way. The quantum tunnel between Earth and Mars had been their first breakthrough, kept carefully hidden from their alien friends. The Drachnids and others assumed humanity still relied on conventional spacecraft for interplanetary travel. They'd never suspected that each dismissive meeting, each condescending trade agreement, had only fueled humanity's determination. 12 hours later, Sarah stood in the vast underground chamber of Olympus Base, staring up at humanity's response to decades of galactic mockery. The prototype vessel Prometheus dominated the space, its hull gleaming with the distinctive sheen of metamaterials that shouldn't exist according to conventional physics. Dr. Raj Patel, his dark hair now streaked with gray, approached with barely contained excitement. The final simulations are complete, Admiral. The 7th-Dimensional drive works exactly as theorized. We can begin full-scale testing whenever you give the word. Sarah walked the length of the ship, running her hand along its smooth surface. The aliens had always assumed humanity's understanding of physics was limited to 3 dimensions, with barely a grasp of the 4th. They'd never imagined that human mathematicians and physicists had been quietly exploring the implications of 11-dimensional space for over a century. How many people know about this, Raj? The full scope of it. Less than 50, Admiral. We've compartmentalized everything, just as you ordered. Even the construction teams only worked on isolated components. Nobody outside this room understands what we've actually built. The 7th-Dimensional drive wasn't just an advancement. It was a paradigm shift. While other species focused on brute forcing their way through space-time, humanity had discovered something far more elegant. By accessing higher dimensional spaces, the Prometheus could effectively step outside the normal bounds of space-time altogether. And the power requirements? Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. It was the detail that would shock their alien counterparts the most. Raj grinned. That's the beautiful part. Once we transition to 7-dimensional space, the energy cost is negligible. The aliens are so focused on massive power generation because their fold space tech is fundamentally inefficient. They're trying to punch through space-time. We simply step aside. Sarah nodded, remembering all the times the Drachnids and others had lectured humanity about their primitive understanding of energy generation. Her neural implant chimed again. Another trade delegation was requesting a meeting, no doubt to offer humanity some token technology in exchange for access to Earth's resources. Begin final preparations, she ordered. I want the Prometheus ready for demonstration in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Raj's eyes widened. The Galactic Council meeting. You're planning to? Yes. Sarah's smile had an edge to it now. I think it's time we showed our friends that humanity has learned a few things while they weren't paying attention. As she left the chamber, Sarah thought about all the patronizing smiles they'd endured, all the subtle and not-so-subtle suggestions that humanity should be content with its tiny corner of the galaxy. The Drachnids and their allies had assumed humanity's quiet acceptance of their treatment meant acceptance of their place in the galactic hierarchy. They were about to learn how wrong they'd been. In her quarters that evening, Sarah reviewed the classified reports from Earth's hidden research facilities. The 7th-Dimensional drive was only the beginning. Once the principles were demonstrated, dozens of other technologies would be revealed. Advances in medicine, computing, energy generation, and manufacturing that would reshape the galaxy. Message from Earth Defense Command. Admiral, her implant announced. The Drachnid ambassador is requesting another meeting. He's offering to share their basic FTL technology in exchange for exclusive mining rights to the asteroid belt. Sarah thought about the Prometheus, nearly ready to rewrite the rules of space travel, and about all the other breakthroughs humanity had quietly achieved while playing the role of technological primitives. "Tell them I'll be happy to meet," she replied. "In fact, I have a counter-proposal they might find interesting. Let them think they still held all the cards. In 2 weeks, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology. It was in their ability to be underestimated. Breaking the boundaries." The development of the 7th-Dimensional drive hadn't come without cost. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, in a sealed chamber adjacent to the Prometheus's construction bay, a wall of remembrance bore witness to the sacrifices made in pursuit of humanity's great leap forward. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before it, her hand tracing the names etched in luminescent quantum crystal. 10 years ago, she'd been part of the first team to successfully generate a 7th-dimensional field. 3 of her colleagues hadn't survived the experiment. The physics they were exploring didn't just break conventional rules, it shattered them. "I thought I'd find you here." Raj's voice came from behind her. "The final integration test starts in 20 minutes. Elena nodded, her fingers lingering on one name in particular. Dr. James Chen, Admiral Chen's husband. His theoretical work had been the foundation of everything they'd achieved, but he hadn't lived to see it realized. "Do you ever wonder if we're moving too fast?" she asked. "The simulations show the drive working perfectly, but we're dealing with aspects of reality that no species has ever touched before." Raj moved to stand beside her. "That's exactly why we have to move forward now. The Drachnids and others, they've become complacent. They think they've discovered all there is to know about space travel. Their arrogance is our opportunity." The integration test would be the first time they powered up all systems simultaneously. The Prometheus wasn't just equipped with the 7th-dimensional drive. It incorporated dozens of other breakthrough technologies, each carefully developed and hidden from prying eyes. They made their way to the control center, where teams of engineers and scientists were running through pre-test procedures. Admiral Chen was already there, reviewing data streams on multiple holographic displays. "Dr. Rodriguez," she acknowledged, "are we ready to proceed?" Elena pulled up her own displays, checking the quantum harmonics one final time. The 7th-dimensional drive operated on principles that would seem like magic to most species. Even the Drachnids, for all their advanced technology, were still thinking in terms of conventional space-time manipulation. "All systems are nominal," she reported. "Quantum fields are stable, and the dimensional barriers are holding steady." The test began with a low hum that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. In the construction bay, the Prometheus's hull began to shimmer with patterns that hurt the eyes to look at directly, the visual manifestation of higher dimensional energies interacting with normal spacetime. "Power consumption at 5% of projected requirements," one of the engineers announced. "Field stability at 97% and holding." Elena watched the numbers with a mixture of pride and anxiety. They tested each component separately, but this was different. They were attempting something that should be impossible according to every other spacefaring race's understanding of physics. Initiating dimensional shift in 3, 2, 1. For a fraction of a second, the Prometheus seemed to blur, its edges becoming indistinct. Then, with a flash of light that wasn't quite light, it vanished. The sensors showed it had successfully transitioned to 7th-dimensional space, existing in a realm that other species didn't even know was accessible. Transition complete, Elena announced, her voice steady despite her racing heart. All systems functioning within expected parameters. Admiral Chen smiled. A rare sight these days. Begin reversion sequence. The ship reappeared exactly where it had been, its hull now bearing a subtle iridescence that would fade within hours. The test had been perfect, better than perfect. They had proven not just that their technology worked, but that it worked more efficiently than anyone had dared to hope. Well done, everyone, the Admiral said. Dr. Rodriguez, I want a full analysis of the test data within 24 hours. Dr. Patel, begin preparation for the live demonstration at the Galactic Council meeting. As the teams began their post-test procedures, Elena found herself thinking about the implications of what they'd achieved. The 7th-dimensional drive wouldn't just change how humanity traveled through space. It would fundamentally alter their place in the galaxy. The Drachnids won't know what hit them, Raj said quietly, joining her at her station. Elena thought about the Wall of Remembrance, about James Chen and all the others who had given their lives to make this possible. No, she agreed. They won't. But I hope they learn from it. Their mistake wasn't in having advanced technology. It was in thinking they had all the answers. Admiral Chen approached them, holding a data crystal similar to the one she always carried. Dr. Rodriguez, Dr. Patel, there's something else you need to see. Something we've been developing alongside the drive. She inserted the crystal into Elena's console, and a new set of schematics appeared. Elena's eyes widened as she realized what she was seeing. The 7th-dimensional drive wasn't just a means of travel. It was the key to understanding the fundamental structure of the universe itself. Is this what I think it is? She asked. The Admiral nodded. Phase 2. Once we demonstrate the drive, this is what comes next. The Drachnids think they're giving us scraps from their table. We're about to show them that humanity has been cooking up a feast of its own. The demonstration. The Galactic Council chamber hung like a jeweled pendant in high orbit around Neptune, deliberately positioned to remind humanity of their place on the fringes of civilized space. Its crystalline architecture housed representatives from over 300 spacefaring species, most of whom had gathered today for what they assumed would be another routine meeting. High Counselor Zixtal of the Drachnid hegemony sat in his elevated position, his crystalline exoskeleton refracting light as he moved. We will now hear the Earth delegation's response to our generous offer of basic fold space technology. Admiral Chen stood at the speaker's podium, her dress uniform pristine, her expression carefully neutral. The Prometheus waited in its hidden dock beneath the Martian surface, its systems primed and ready. In her ear, Dr. Rodriguez's voice counted down the final checks. Honorable members of the Council, Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation field. For 3 decades, humanity has been grateful for your guidance. Today, we would like to share something of our own. A murmur ran through the assembly. This wasn't the script they'd expected, the one where humanity graciously accepted whatever technological scraps were offered while signing away their resources. Transmission incoming from an unknown vessel, one of the Drachnid sensors operators suddenly announced. The massive holographic display at the center of the chamber activated automatically. The Prometheus emerged from 7th-dimensional space directly in front of the council chamber, its hull sheened with impossible geometries that made several of the more sensitive species look away. It hadn't traveled through normal space to reach Neptune. It had simply stepped through the higher dimensions, appearing exactly where intended. Impossible. High Counselor Zixtal rose from his seat, his crystalline form vibrating with agitation. Our sensors detect no conventional drive signatures, no fold space distortion. That's correct, Sarah said calmly. The Prometheus doesn't use conventional drives or fold space technology. We found a different way. The chamber erupted in chaos as dozens of species began talking at once. Their sensors were reporting things that shouldn't be possible. energy patterns that shouldn't exist, spatial configurations that defied known physics. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's voice came through Sarah's neural implant again. All systems nominal. Admiral, ready for the main demonstration. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. If I could direct the Council's attention to the main display, we've prepared a small demonstration of the Prometheus's capabilities. The ship seemed to blur, its form becoming indistinct. Then, in rapid succession, it appeared at different points around the solar system. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and finally back to Neptune. Each transition was instantaneous, with no sign of conventional movement through space. As you can see, Sarah continued, we've developed what we call the 7th-Dimensional drive. It allows us to step outside normal spacetime entirely, making traditional concepts of distance irrelevant. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Sarah could see the implications hitting home as the various representatives consulted their scientific advisors, all of whom were struggling to explain what they were witnessing. High Counselor Zixtel's voice had lost its usual condescending tone. This is unprecedented. How did you achieve this level of technological advancement without detection? We learned from you, Counselor, Sarah replied. You taught us the value of patience, of keeping our true capabilities hidden. While you assumed we were struggling with basic fusion technology, we were exploring aspects of physics your species hasn't yet discovered. The Mercurian representative, a being of living plasma contained within an energy field, spoke next. The power requirements for such technology must be enormous. Actually, Sarah cut in, they're minimal. Once you understand how to access the higher dimensions, you don't need to force your way through space-time. You simply step around it. She could see the shock rippling through the assembly as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't just developed a new form of propulsion. They'd fundamentally changed the rules of space travel. The carefully maintained technological hierarchy of the galaxy had just been upended. We're not here to gloat, Sarah continued, though part of her very much wanted to. We're here to offer genuine cooperation. The 7th-Dimensional drive is only the beginning. We have other technologies we're willing to share with species who are ready to treat us as equals. The council chamber buzzed with renewed conversation. Sarah could see alliances shifting, calculations being made. The Drachnid's influence was already waning as other species realized the balance of power had shifted. And what do you want in return? High Counselor Zixtel asked, his translator struggling to convey the complex emotions in his voice. Sarah's response was firm. Respect, equal standing in the council, and an end to the practice of technological gatekeeping that has stifled innovation across the galaxy. As the council erupted into debate, Sarah received another message from Elena. Secondary systems are ready, Admiral. Should we proceed with the full demonstration? Sarah looked around the chamber, at all the species who had dismissed humanity as primitive, who had never imagined that their patronizing attitude would motivate humanity to achieve something revolutionary. Not yet, she replied softly. Let them process this first. We don't want to break their minds entirely. The Prometheus hung in space before the council chamber, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. It was more than a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's response to being underestimated. The galaxy would never be the same. Paradigm shift. The days following the Prometheus demonstration transformed the galaxy's political landscape with a speed that matched the vessel's revolutionary drive. In her office aboard the Earth Defense Station, Admiral Chen watched the diplomatic chaos unfold across a wall of holographic feeds. Another 12 species have requested immediate technological exchange programs, her AI assistant reported. The Drachnid hegemony's economic indicators have dropped 30% since the demonstration. Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before returning to the more pressing matters at hand. The Prometheus had changed everything, but change brought its own dangers. Already, there were rumors of species attempting to replicate the technology through espionage or force. Admiral, Dr. Rodriguez's image appeared on a priority channel. We've detected unusual scanning attempts at the Olympus base. Someone's trying to pierce our security measures. Expected, Sarah replied. Activate Countermeasure Protocol Delta. Let's show them another of our little surprises. The 7th-Dimensional drive wasn't humanity's only secret. While their alien observers had focused on conventional defense systems, Earth had developed quantum-entangled security networks that operated outside normal spacetime. Any attempt to breach them would only reveal carefully crafted false data. Dr. Patel wants you to know that the secondary systems are ready for deployment, Elena added, though he suggests waiting until the political situation stabilizes. Sarah nodded. The 7th-Dimensional drive had been shocking enough. The secondary technologies, like the ability to manipulate fundamental forces through higher dimensional access, might cause panic if revealed too soon. A priority alert flashed across her displays. The Mercurian representative was requesting an immediate private audience. Unlike many species, the Mercurians had responded to humanity's revelation with fascination, rather than fear or resentment. Put them through, Sarah ordered. The plasma-based being materialized in her office through a secure holographic link. Admiral Chen, we've been analyzing the principles behind your 7th-dimensional technology. The implications are staggering. How so, Ambassador? Your species hasn't just developed a new method of travel. You've discovered a fundamental aspect of reality that we all overlooked. The Drachnid's fold space technology suddenly seems like using a sledgehammer where a key would suffice. Sarah smiled. The Mercurians had always been among the more thoughtful species in the Council. We're prepared to share our research with species who demonstrate genuine interest in collaborative advancement. The ambassador's plasma form pulsed with excitement. There's more, isn't there? The drive system is only the beginning. Before Sarah could respond, another alert demanded her attention. A Drachnid warfleet had just appeared at the edge of the solar system, not through 7th-dimensional space, but through their crude fold space technology. Excuse me, Ambassador, Sarah said, rising from her desk. It seems some of our friends require a more dramatic demonstration of humanity's capabilities. The Drachnid fleet was impressive by conventional standards. 50 capital ships arranged in attack formation. Their energy signatures suggested weapons powered up, though they remained just outside weapons range. Message from the Drachnid fleet commander, her AI reported. They're demanding access to 7th-dimensional technology under Article 47 of the Galactic Defense Treaty. Sarah opened a channel to Olympus base. Dr. Rodriguez, I believe it's time for that full demonstration we discussed. Elena's reply was immediate. Understood. Admiral. Prometheus is ready. Secondary systems are online. Sarah broadcast on all frequencies. Drachnid Fleet, this is Admiral Chen. Your presence here violates multiple Council protocols. We recommend you withdraw immediately. The time for protocols is past, the Drachnid commander replied. Your species cannot be allowed to maintain sole control of such powerful technology. Surrender your research data, or we will take it by force. Sarah's voice remained calm. You misunderstand, Commander. We're not refusing out of arrogance or fear. We're trying to prevent unnecessary embarrassment. She gave the signal. The Prometheus shifted into 7th-dimensional space, reappearing simultaneously at multiple points around the Drachnid fleet. But this time, it wasn't just for show. Secondary systems engaged, Elena reported. Dimensional field expanding. The space around the Drachnid ships began to shimmer with impossible geometries. Their weapons powered down, their engines went silent, and their communications cut off. They hung in space, completely immobilized by forces they couldn't comprehend. What we revealed at the Council meeting was a gentle introduction, Sarah transmitted to the fleet. The 7th dimension allows for more than just travel. It lets us manipulate the fundamental forces that hold reality together. She waited a moment to let that sink in. Your ships are fine. We've simply adjusted local spacetime to make your technology temporarily inoperable. Consider this a demonstration of why cooperation is preferable to confrontation. The Mercurian ambassador, who had witnessed everything, spoke softly. "You could have done this at any time." "Yes," Sarah agreed, "but that wouldn't have served our true goal. Humanity doesn't want to replace the Drachnids as the galaxy's technological gatekeepers. We want to break the cycle entirely." She opened a channel to the immobilized Drachnid fleet. "When we restore your systems, you have a choice. Return to the Council and participate in open technological exchange, or cling to your outdated belief in technological supremacy. The galaxy is changing. You can change with it or be left behind." As the Prometheus released its hold on the Drachnid ships, Sarah thought about all the possibilities that lay ahead. Humanity had kept their advances secret not out of fear, but because they'd needed time to develop something more than just new technology. They'd needed time to develop the wisdom to use it properly. New Horizons, 1 year after the Prometheus demonstration, the landscape of galactic civilization had transformed beyond recognition. The Great Hall of the new Galactic Exchange on Mars hummed with activity as representatives from dozens of species collaborated on projects that would have been unthinkable months ago. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation window, watching teams of human scientists working alongside their alien counterparts. Below, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was explaining 7th-Dimensional mathematics to a group that included former rivals, Drachnids, Mercurians, and others who had once looked down on humanity. "The latest results from the Joint Research Initiative are in," Raj reported, joining her at the window. "The Mercurians have already adapted our principles to create an entirely new form of energy generation. And the Drachnids, well, you won't believe what they've done with quantum computing once they stop trying to brute force everything." Sarah smiled, remembering the wall of remembrance beneath Olympus Base. James would have loved to see this. He always said the real breakthrough wouldn't be the technology itself. It would be getting everyone to work together. The Prometheus had become more than just a ship. It was now a symbol of what could be achieved when species stopped hoarding knowledge and started sharing it. The vessel's revolutionary drive system had opened up not just new ways to travel through space, but new ways of thinking about the universe itself. "Message from the Council Reform Committee," her neural implant chimed. "The final draft of the Open Exchange Protocols has been ratified. All major species have signed. The new protocols would ensure that no single species could monopolize revolutionary technologies again. More importantly, they established frameworks for collaborative research and development across the galaxy." "Dr. Rodriguez," Sarah called down to the research floor, "I believe it's time for the next phase." Elena looked up, nodding in understanding. She gestured to her diverse group of students and colleagues to follow her to the central presentation area. The hall's holoprojectors came to life, displaying a schema that made even the Drachnid scientists' crystalline forms vibrate with excitement. "As remarkable as the 7th-dimensional drive is," Elena began, "it's merely the first step. Our combined research teams have discovered that the principles behind it can be applied to nearly every field of science. We're not just changing how we travel through space, we're changing how we interact with reality itself." The display shifted, showing applications that ranged from medical technology to environmental restoration. The ability to manipulate higher dimensions had implications far beyond simple transportation. "Incoming transmission from deep space," Sarah's implant announced. "It's using 7th-dimensional frequencies." Sarah straightened. This was unexpected. They hadn't deployed any ships that far out yet. Source: unknown, but the pattern matches. It matches the original architectural signatures we discovered on Mars. The architect, their mysterious benefactor who had watched humanity's progress all along. Sarah had wondered when they would reveal themselves. The message was brief but clear. "You have exceeded expectations. The real test begins now." Sarah looked out at the assembled species, former rivals now working together, sharing knowledge, building something greater than any one civilization could achieve alone. Whatever test the architect had in mind, humanity wouldn't face it alone. "Admiral, Elena called up from below. Should we be concerned? Sarah thought about how far they'd come. From being dismissed as primitives to revolutionizing galactic society in less than a year. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them the same way they'd overcome their previous limitations, with innovation, determination, and most importantly, together. No, she replied. I think we're ready. Humanity's greatest strength was never our technology. It was our ability to adapt, to learn, and to bring people together. We didn't just develop new technology. We developed a new way forward. The Prometheus hung in orbit above Mars, its hull catching the sunlight, but it was no longer alone. Ships of various species surrounded it, each incorporating elements of 7th-Dimensional technology, each representing a civilization that had learned to look beyond their preconceptions. In the end, humanity's response to being mocked hadn't been revenge or dominance. It had been to show the galaxy a better way, to transform derision into cooperation, suspicion into trust, and isolation into unity. The next great adventure was just beginning. The end.